On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk about smoothing the path to voice control and how confusing the DIY home automation options are. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 90, My Electronic Toddler.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks and by Crestron.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And today I am pleased to be joined by Rich Berra. He is the managing director at Fabara. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been a few weeks. I think I saw you last at CEDIA.
That is correct. We were hanging out in the booth, having all kinds of fun. Yeah. And last but not least, you know him as Uncle Richie. We have Rich Fregosa. He is the principal and founder of Fregosa Design. How are you, sir?
Good. Mellow West Coast greetings. We've gone from firestorms to beautiful days out, so no more wearing masks where we're at. So I'm glad to have some sunshine and not have crimson sunsets and seeing what's on the other side of the hills.
Yeah, that's always a good sign. Not fun to watch. All right, gentlemen, let's jump right in. This comes to us from Residential Systems, smoothing the path to voice control. This is an overview of how a Georgia integrator started integrating Alexa and the Echoes with an RTI control system and how he does that for his clients. And I lead into that to also say this is a good friend of the shows, of mine, of Richie's. This is Stephen Bronner from Pro Audio Georgia, a fantastic integrator. If you don't know him, get to know him, follow him online. But essentially, he started using the drivers for RTI that was developed to integrate RTI with Alexa, and how voice control has really changed the way his company is operating and offering control. The couple of things I wanted to get into, and Rich, we'll start with you on this one, is voice control offers so many options to the client, to the integrator, to everyone involved in this. Does the progression of voice control and the growth that it has, does it make automation easier for the client?
Which Rich are you asking?
Sorry, you.
Me?
You.
So two Riches here on the show. Yeah, you know what? So this is an interesting question because, within our system, we've been using Alexa for some time. And I think it's definitely a great starter for some people getting into systems. It's bringing more awareness to the space. I think that there's still some complexity depending on the size of your system, how many nodes you have. I use a great example when I started using it even within my home. And I would say, turn the bathroom light on. Well, I've got 3 bathrooms. So now all of a sudden I've got to go and change it to a master bathroom, the powder room. And then you get into the, let's say, complexity of people within your home when you've got different family members. We'll say, we'll call that bathroom something else. And that's where you get into a little bit of this, your wife can call it, the downstairs bathroom. You call it the powder bathroom. And Alexa, only you can change the name of the room or the devices, but it still doesn't give you multiple different ways of controlling that light. And so that's where there can be complexity where you're adding a lot of devices, or you have. But when you go into the scenes like the good morning, the good night, I'm home, those are pretty universal and definitely makes those easier.
Very good. Uncle Richie, when we look at voice control and we look at the way that we've sold and offered automation in the past, when we get into, selling remotes and touchscreens, we can do mock-ups. We can do all these great customer facing things. We can show them demos of our homes or our units, or heck, sometimes even other clients' homes live to show them how things work. when it comes to voice control, and given kind of what Rich just mentioned about, issues with nomenclature and things such as that, how does somebody best explain and demonstrate voice control beyond giving your clients, an Echo Dot or a Google Home Mini or something like that to play with for a little bit?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the issue right now. It is, I think with the voice control and what Alexa and Google Home and Siri and, the new pod speaker that's coming out, is that we are getting there. We see voice control as something that will evolve over time. Obviously, it is something that the major manufacturers are paying attention to. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeing this marketing blitz. And it is going to take a foothold, but what it requires is, from our side, a matter of establishing those expectations to begin with. Perfect example, Rich was just talking about before, which was, nomenclature between rooms. Somebody calls it the living room, I call it the family room. Do I plan for both of them? But more to the point, that it's if you're not setting expectations early on, the frustration that occurs with the system. I know we had a couple of days ago, my son wanted to listen to a song, and my wife, myself, and my son kept yelling at Alexa. It was almost felt like, she was just ignoring us at this point, because like, play this song. No, I'm going to play this song. Play this song. No, I'm going to play this one. It was like arguing with the toddler at that point. It was my electronic toddler. But that was a real world example of what is a cool concept wasn't playing out in the real world. And that starts out with, it becomes a matter of establishing that from the beginning, saying, hey, look, this is a secondary or a tertiary control layer. You still have your handheld device, your mobile device, you have a keypad, you have all of these things that you're used to using. Those 1 time out of 10 that you're walking through the door and you've got an armful of groceries, it is nice to be able to say, Alexa, I'm home, or Google, I'm home. And that functionality then makes sense. We've always had with us, we've kind of called it the principles of home automation that I've always promoted, which was, we're creatures of habit, and there's only a couple of certain things that we really want in our environment. We want it warmer, we want it cooler, we want it brighter, we want it dimmer, we want it louder, we want it softer, we want it on, we want it off, right? So the whole purpose of any of these technological devices that we're using has to hit those key areas first, right? Then once we reach that point and we get to a comfort point, then you can stack on and build confidence. And I know a lot of people who have got, $59 or $79 dots that just sit with dust on them at this point. It was great. They were the great Christmas presents. But 2 months in, after arguing with the electronic toddler, it sets off with a little red ring on it because they've already turned on the microphone. I mean, we have here at the in the house, even set up as a lab. I've got like 6 or 7 of them set up all over the place. And if I speak too loudly in one room, a dot in another room picks it up. Or if a commercial's playing in a room, an Alexa commercial, and all of a sudden my Alexa over in the theater starts listening to the family room. It says, next thing I know, I've got, 35 pounds of paper towels being delivered. So, there's still a lot that I think, like anything else, and what Steven's article pointed out, is that it behooves an integrator to embrace it, to live with it, and then to start promoting the practical measures of it. And that's what I thought he spoke more to the core of it, which is, and if you look at what RTI and really all the other companies, Control4 is doing it, and Crestron's doing it, and I mean, it's all of these companies are doing it, is that they're making the decision whether to make it a somewhat closed sandbox, which here are some of the things that you can do, because we've already worked out kind of the phonetic issues with it or the feedback issues with it, or some of them are saying, hey, you know what, it's open-ended, have at it, figure it out on your own. And that depends on the integrator, that depends on the company they partnered with. So, I view it as a great first step. I see that there's going to be more of it. Alexa is one. We have a great relationship, and there's a company that we love called Josh AI, who's taken that viewpoint and moved it even further and said, how do we deal with from a kind of a multi-point, what do they call it? He's calling it natural language programming standpoint.
Yes.
Right? Where, hey house, turn on the lights in the living room, set the thermostat to 65, and by the way, put CNN on, and it's taking that in. Now there's a premium for that. It's not a $59 product. So that's where we're at right now. We have kind of the bespoke systems that are doing some things that people are expected in a real world environment. And we're taking commodity products and we're saying, hey, it's only $59. It's only $79. It's only $159 for these devices. They can be useful, but we have to be very measured in how we use that. And that's really, I think, sometimes what we're not advising integrators well about, which is staying within that environment, staying away from it can do everything to let's focus on the things that it does well. And that goes back to a demo. Like I said, you can take a dot, you can take a small unit, set it up on Wi-Fi, and you can basically turn on a light bulb or a little kit that you carry with you. And you can effectively demonstrate something like that. And it goes back to the old days of either having some place where you can bring them or something you can bring to them, because they do have to see it in action at that point.
I think and let me just add to what you just said, which is a good point. I think it's good to start small with, like if you look at how Amazon originally launched, they started with a very small set of what it can do. And I think that was a way of teaching or getting people used to, what Alexa is and how it can interact with things. And if dealers use that approach and do good follow-up, those kind of core things that it can do, and then coming back and saying, it gives a great opportunity for that dealer to have that, follow-up visit with them, and then enable some more of those extra features, go slow and versus that all-in approach, which is usually where things don't work and then they get frustrated.
What is the point where we get beyond just the basic systems without jumping into something as bespoke as Josh AI? Are we going to get there in the foreseeable future to where this can replace your remote, to where voice control can replace your touch panels on the wall or your keypads on the wall? Or is that still, for lack of a better term, a pipe dream for the future?
So it's interesting because I actually had this conversation last week on stage at
I'm so glad I asked you.
IoT conference, and there was actually somebody from Nest on stage with me. And one of the issues when you look at a remote or a keypad on the wall is that consumers actually they know what they're selecting. They see on, off, they see the different variables. With voice, you don't have that interface that's telling you what your option is. And so once these speakers are able to have a little bit more context aware, like it's, John is in the living room versus his daughter, and that command comes out and it does two different things. That's, I think, where the voice is going to really have that aha kind of moment where it can do a lot more than what it's doing right now. And so, in other words, once more of the AI and the contextual data come into play, I think that's when it'll be a better experience.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story. Excuse me. This comes to us from CE Pro and the one and only Julie Jacobson. Great news for pros. Home automation is more confusing than ever. In this article, Julie is going over essentially the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, and all the announcements that have come out in that kind of DIY market segment with things like the the Nest Secure and the Ring Protect, the Echo Plus, the Google Home products, the new Sonos One, all of those new devices that are coming out and hitting the market. With all of this now available, and Rich and I were talking about this ahead of time, Uncle Richie. Do we find, like, obviously this space is very confusing. There's a lot of products out there. There are a lot of different technologies available within this. But do we find that we notice how confusing it is because we're on the inside and we know enough to know that Z-Wave and Zigbee aren't really compatible together, and if we see two of them together, we need multiple things? Or does the end user see this much confusion? Or do they get stuck in their little sandbox of, hey, I bought a Nest and these are the 5 things that work with Nest, so I'm going to do those 5 things?
This goes back to kind of the conversation that we have constantly with integrators, which is the transition for integrators is from being equipment providers to being technology advisors. Mm-hmm. And an end user is going to turn on the television or turn on the radio, and while they're driving in their car, and they're going to hear about all these products, and they see these products and see these wonderfully marketed products by companies with huge marketing budgets, and go, oh, it just magically works. That there's just an assumption. And that's the whole point of the marketing, is to get them to the point where, because it is a commodity product, it is coming at a price point that is far lower than we've ever seen in the industry. And that's the one thing that we always have to remember, is that there is an opportunity to embrace this, because much like anything else in this industry, there's the starting point, which is, yes, these products are available. I understand the choices that you've made. Now let's take a look. And it depends on your business model. There are companies who can take a business model who basically say, yes, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these products and find ways to put it all together, and they're fragmented. And by the way, here's your handheld device, your tablet, and here are the 7 different apps that are in there, and we'll make it work as best as we can. And that's what we provide. There are others that are going to say, here, I'm here to provide you an end result, to get you from point A to point B. And that's where the relationship happens. And here are the products that we're comfortable with. Here's the education that we provide. Here's why these choices are being made. It's a line that integrators have to kind of focus on. It's more confusing in that there are more products. There's more choice, and it's going to help the pricing. What now has to happen with integrators is they have to be willing to step in and say, what are you willing to invest with the end user, with the architects that you're working with the builders that you're working with, everything down your product line, and your sales pipeline, as to providing them that information so that they can make those decisions, so that when they see something, they go, oh, I do see that Zigbee doesn't work the same way as Z-Wave, and Z-Wave actually is a better standard for these reasons, which it is. But
I might vote here.
Rich, I want to. We got talking about this before we jumped on and started recording. Given what Uncle Richie has said, and something that he's always preached to me ever since the day I met him, is that we are technology concierges. We're not Best Buy. We're not in the business of selling boxes. We're not Amazon. We're not eBay. We are, we're thoughtful people. We are people that use our brains to help our clients, opposed to just selling them a box. When we look at this massive spread of options that are out there, from the couple that Julie mentioned in her article to everything else that you can find on, heck, Best Buy, Amazon, eBay, all those places that we just mentioned. What is the integrator to do looking at this? Because over the years, we have seen some pushback from a lot of integrators who want to focus strictly on their high-end business, or even their mid to high-end business. What is the value? What is the opportunity in jumping into this kind of market?
Well, I think it goes back to what Uncle Richie said, is that, the dealers, the integrators need to be the experts. They need to understand those products, so that when, a customer, because what's happening more and more, these customers are becoming aware of these products. They're seeing the commercials, and, they're going to the integrators and saying, hey, I want this. And so there's going to be one or two school of thoughts. One is going to be the integrators like, you got to stay away from that. It doesn't work. Here's what you need to do. And that's the ones that are trying to stick with their products that they've been selling for a long time. The other ones, the ones that are going to succeed going into the future, and I'm not saying the other ones won't, but, getting to those customers that are coming to them is understanding those products and what they can do, what they work with, and, showing them the different options and being that technology advisor versus just selling a box, which is, when you go into the store, I do this all the time, and let's say secret shop a lot of different stores and see what they can do. And, when my 11-year-old son knows more than, the person at the store, he just laughs, walks away and said, because I've taught him not to interject. He used but so there's that middle ground where I think there can be a great blend of knowing what the products that the installers have been installing for quite some time and how they work with the technology that's being introduced, because more and more as the Google and now Apple with the HomePod, these are going to be more and more conversations that are the starting point, and we need to be the technology advisors in that space.
And I'll add to that too, is that, from a business standpoint, whenever you do a competitive analysis, your first thought is your competition, in terms of other integrators. That's not the case at this point. So your competitive analysis also has to extend to when these new products come out, taking the time to, it really is sales 101 in the respect that it's a matter of looking at the product, figuring out where the objections are, figuring out the pros and cons, and laying them out. And like we were talking about before, objectively laying it out.
Yes.
Here are the reasons why you can use it. Here are the reasons why it doesn't work. Here are the things that do work together. Here are the things that don't work together. Here's the investment that you've made. Here's what you can expect with that investment. Here's the things that you're possibly hoping to do that we can guarantee aren't going to happen. Now, if that is the most important thing for you, then products A, B, and C will fill that. You pick D. Well, you probably have a 30-day return window. So let's see about taking that back, and let's get you, B, C, or D. But truly, that is, and that comes back from the relationship level with clients. And if you are going to create a long-term relationship with the client, got to keep circling back to that. Absolutely learn every single one of these devices that are out there, play with them, find out what's wrong with them, see what works and what doesn't, and then you then have, rather than it just doesn't work. Well, no, here's why it doesn't work. Or here's why it does work. And so Rich, brings up a good point, is that the consumers now with any device in their hand have the ability to research and get information to questions that they've never had before,
Right.
And you have to respect that. And you have to embrace that you are dealing with a far more educated consumer now than you did 10 years ago. And I think that's great. It's now just a matter of being able to give them the reasons why, give them the opportunity to make educated decisions.
Yeah.
Now, when you're having that conversation with a client, and this is something that a sales mentor of mine told me years ago, was the power of saying that you don't know. How important in this realm, because there are so many products out there, and as much as you just said, Uncle Richie, order every single one in, bring them all in, play with them all. You obviously can't play with them with every single device and every single interaction between those devices. What is the best practice? What is the best way for integrators to work that conversation? Because normally we are the experts. We expect to be the experts. What do you do when that client throws you a fastball from left field of, I just found this, it's amazing, tell me why I can't use it?
Use case. Again, you might be able to. We haven't had a chance to test it yet. So if you'd like, we can come in and work with you to test it. And normally our testing, or our insight fee and our deployment fee, which we'll credit to you after we've had chances to use it for in-house testing, we'll go ahead and use towards your project.
See, and that's why I like having you on. You always got something good.
We're the experts, right? And being an expert, you can admit that you don't know something, but there's such a vast network where installers can go and learn quickly. Come back to you in 24 hours with the pros and the cons, with a more educated answer, and say, how important is this to to you? And you laugh, Uncle.
Oh no, I'm saying cedia.org. Go to your regional trainings. I'm 100% in agreement with you. Again, where it is making use of the resources available. Yeah. Going to the manufacturers who have product that they know, that they've tested, that provides the end results.
Beautiful. All right, gentlemen, let's stop it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Uncle Richie, if people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
You can find me on the Twitterverse at rfragosa. You can type in my name in the Googles, and lots of times things will pop up in there. And also you can find me at fragosadesign.com.
Very good. Rich, thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you again. Where can people connect with you?
So people could connect with me. I'm usually on our Twitter at Fabaro US, and then Fabaro.com. If you need to send me an email, you could do rich@fabaro.com.
Beautiful. Excellent. Thanks again for joining us. For myself, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.